Hi, everybody. Spencer Kuiper here with Teacher Technology, and I'm here to convey a few things to you about using some features that you might be aware of, but maybe you didn't think about before. I'm talking about Google. And so in terms of some of the best suite of tools and applications that we have at our disposal, Google is definitely in that realm of some of the best tools that I enjoy using. But I use them in such a way that remixes their purpose to make things a bit more accessible to both my students and the teachers I work with. So today we're going to go over a couple of my favorite tools and applications and put just a little bit of a spin on things. Again, my name is Spencer Kuiper, and I am an instructional technologist here in Caddo Parish Schools. And my job is to help teachers be better teachers with technology. So my contact info is going to be at the end of this presentation. If there is anything that we can do to help your instruction be as best as it can be with technology, that's what we're here for. So without further ado, I would like to sort of address the elephant in the room. We're all looking for the best tools and the best strategies right now to help us be better teachers in this uncertain, unprecedented, whatever term you want to use, time that we're living in now. And so our central question for the training today deals with what skills or challenges did I face in the spring, or was I aware of in the spring, just in case you weren't in the classroom yet. But what challenges and what skills did I face in the spring that I would like to master at this point? And that could be anything from building relationships with kids to streamlining a new remote workflow, all of those things. Chances are Google has a tool out there that would make that process so much better and so much easier on you. You just might have to use it in a different way that you're used to. And so many of our teachers come to us either as traditional undergraduates or with a lot of experience in maybe a different industry. And so using things like slide decks and spreadsheets, Google Sheets may be second nature to you, but using them in a classroom specifically to positively impact the instruction of students is sometimes sort of a stretch. Like, why would I ever use a spreadsheet, and how would it ever be helpful to my students and their families? How would I keep from having to make all of these slide decks and all of these things that I have to keep up, all these documents? Why can't I just make one and it would just kind of work for everything? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So, excuse me, the two tools that I would like to mention today in our training, and I'm about to jump out of this presentation and we're going to go kind of fast and furious through some of these things. The two major areas that we're going to look at today are Google Sheets and Google Slides. But interestingly enough, we're not going to use the sheet for sheet purposes. We're not going to use the slide deck for actual slide deck purposes. We're going to retool those and remix them to be a bit more helpful to streamline maybe a remote workflow or a hybrid workflow, like some of us might be seeing. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to Google Sheets, and I am going to make sure that this presentation is linked in whatever resource, whatever you need to refer back to this later. So that way you do have access to this file. So this file is going to be a copy file. It's going to force you, when you click this, it's going to force you to make a copy of the file, which is great. So it's going to save automatically to your Google Drive. You're not going to have to worry about anything. And just in case you're wondering how I do that on the back end of things as an advanced feature in Google, when you share a link to someone, all you have to do is you have to go up here to the URL bar, chop off everything after where I think it says edit/sharing, something like that. You chop that off and just replace it with the word copy, and it forces people to make a copy. So we're going to do that now. We're going to click make a copy. And what I've done is I have assembled a calendar for your use. And so you'll be able to use this. Down here, you've got of course, your different sheets within the same workbook, and even a calendar template. But I've already set up August. And all I've done is I've gone through and I have set up a calendar that looks very basic, very similar to one that a lot of our parents would be used to looking at. One of the things that makes things sort of difficult is sending parents to places that are behind a login. That's really difficult for a lot of our parents to get into, especially in certain populations that don't necessarily speak English and have to go through a translation software. Making things as easy as possible for people to read oftentimes gets your messaging out there so much better and so much more effectively as opposed to locking it behind a wall. So, putting in information. So for example, as of right now, school is going to start on the 24th. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type right here, first day of school. And maybe and some of you may be really awesome at Google Sheets. And if you are, huzzah, that's awesome. But for those of you who aren't necessarily great at Google Sheets, you do have an option to go in and click the shading, which is up here. So you can go ahead and fill that space with whatever color. I'm going to make events I'm going to make red, or this pink color right here, this light red 3, mean events. So I'm going to click that right here. You can see it kind of does that odd thing right there. I'm just going to go ahead and select all of this and do it again. Now it fills the entire space. And maybe on the first day of school, I'm going to send home a welcome letter. And anything that I send home to parents, I'm not really sure why that is, 2 size fonts, 2 times the fonts. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay. And maybe the welcome letter and essay is going to be homework that evening. So maybe I want homework to be green. Okay. And then maybe I want to host a back to school, first day of school, welcome Zoom call. So I'm going to type welcome Zoom call. All right. There we go. And I'm going to make that blue. And say, for example, I go and I have Zoom open. I'm now going to take my Zoom link. We're just going to pretend like this is my Zoom link. It's not, obviously, but I set the call up. And then here, I'm going to right-click this cell, insert link, and I'm going to paste it right there. All right. And then down here, you could have some general notes like how to access Canvas, how to go in and access ClassLink, all of the things that they would typically want to ask maybe the first month of school, maybe give a brief detail of how to contact you, your email address, all of those things get here in these cells right there. Okay. Now, how to share this out to parents and kids to make it a little easier for folks to see on the internet. Okay. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into view and I'm going to turn off the grid lines. And you'll notice that all of my grid lines go away. If you're fine using Google Sheets without that, some people are, that's awesome. I prefer the grid lines just for maybe a little while. And then I may turn them off, turn them back on again. But for this purpose, I'm going to go ahead and keep them off. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to File, and this is where Google kind of surpasses Microsoft in a way, because what Google allows you to do is Google allows you to take your sheets and your Google Sheets that you've created and publish them directly to the web. Now, you can either do that a couple of different ways. You can either do that, through the entire document, so I could share this entire document with kids and their families, or I could do it just a single sheet at a time. Now, as a teacher, I would see that if I were just sharing a month at a time, maybe I would use a specific sheet to do that and not necessarily share the entire document, just because every time parents are going to open this up, they would have to go to the certain month that you're talking about, as opposed to just sharing a new link each month. They would just be able to click that new link and see the month that you're talking about. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, you'll see here, I've chose August. I want to publish it as a web page to the web. and click publish. It's going to ask me, are you sure you want to do that? Yes, I'm going to do that. And then here is this nice, awesome link. Now, while you can't necessarily use like link shorteners such as Bitly on the Cato network, you can use them at home, and then especially share them with parents. They don't have any issues using those on home networks. So what you could do is you could shorten this into like a Bitly or what have you, and then push it out to parents that way. But now what we're going to do is paste this up here, and view the spreadsheet now. Now, what you're looking at is an actual web page. This is not something I had to, excuse me. There we go. Go back. This is not something that I had to share with parents. This is not something that I needed to give parents login credentials to see. This is just a calendar for parents to be able to go in and see at a glance. And how could this be helpful, and where can this be posted? So this can be posted directly to Canvas. So maybe if you wanted to give like a month view of what the class was going to look like, maybe you're on an alternative schedule, like an A day, a B day, and you wanted to differentiate sort of like what each class was doing during that time, or what assignments were relevant for that particular day, you could do that in an entire calendar form and then push this link out. So that way parents and students could just see the month at a glance. Okay. Now there is a fantastic calendar that is embedded in Canvas, but in order to see it, a user has to log in, which of course, offers a barrier to our parents who maybe aren't comfortable doing so. So this lives on the internet. So you're able to go in and see all of the items that you have posted. You can see here, first day school, welcome letter and essay. Now, the one caveat that I would mention in terms of security is just be sure that you're using passwords for your Zoom calls, and that you just want to paste the link there, but you do want to still protect that class with a password. So that way you don't get any Zoom bombers or anybody like that bombing your Zoom calls. And so the really awesome part about this is that anytime that you go in and you make a change to this site, group activity, this is participation. I'm going to make that yellow. Okay. Anytime that you make a change to this spreadsheet, every 5 minutes, it's going to push a new version of this spreadsheet out. And so you would only have to update it once. And then once you update it from the root sheet file here, you would only have to send it out to parents just one time. You don't have to send out updates. You don't have to do anything like that. It's all there, ready for parents to see with no problems whatsoever. And like I said, that updates every 5 minutes. So if there's ever like a lag, or if there's ever a problem, like, oh, I don't see the update that I made, well, it's because it takes 5 minutes maximum to push out that update to the website version of this. Okay. So if I have my grid lines on, for example, and I try to go to the website, let's see if I can catch it when it's updating. No. Okay. Then you would actually see the grid lines here, which is why I have them turned off. But like I said, you can even put like a little legend over here of what the colors mean, so that families can know what each or what color represents what type of event or what type of activity, just to kind of streamline the process for parents and kids. All right. So looking forward now, what we want to look at next is our interactive notebooks. So slide decks is something that you for sure know how to use by now. If you used Microsoft Word Microsoft PowerPoint back in like 1998, you can probably use Google Slides. But there are some features about Google Slides that Windows 98 definitely did not have. And so I could get lost telling you all the greatness of Google Slides and why I prefer Google Slides over PowerPoint or Microsoft Online. But suffice it to say, what we're going to focus on today in the discussion about interactive notebooks is why it's helpful to design all of your worksheets, graphic organizers, and all of that jazz in Google Slides as opposed to Google Docs. Just kind of crazy, right? Like, why would you design something for kids to use in Google Slides and not Google Docs? Well, a couple of different things there. And so especially as we start shifting from like static instruction to like a one-to-one style instruction, we have to have different access points for students. And planning, a lot of times teachers are like adversely opposed to that because it's like double the planning, right? Because, you have to make a worksheet here and then make something for online. And the duality of that is frustrating because you have to sit and it takes double the time to make one thing. It actually doesn't. So I'm going to show you a trick that I think you're going to really enjoy. And while I wouldn't necessarily call this an advanced feature of Google, it is in terms of just streamlining how we plan out our activities for kids. Okay. So what you're looking at is I have gone in and modified this presentation of this slide deck, the size of the slides. Okay. So what you may be used to looking at is, let's see, a standard size slide is going to look just like this. Okay. Now, instead of that, what I've gone in and done is right down here, it will say page setup. When I click page setup, I can choose custom. And then here I can change inches, centimeters, points, pixels, whatever the measurement that I want to change the slide by, I can do that. And what I've done is I've gone in and changed this slide to be the exact size of a piece of paper. Okay, so 8.5 by 11 inches does that. And when I do that, this is what it looks like. Now, here's the cool thing to this. When I go in and I try to print this, and hopefully it generates the print preview. If not, just to show you or just to tell you what I'm looking at, it prints it as whatever is in this white space right here. That is what it prints on a standard size piece of paper. So all of this stuff in the side part right here, this little thought bubble right here, this little reminder bubble, these thought bubbles right here, all of these items, which are interactive for students to use. So if I double click that and I can type into it, what have you, all of these things become interactive elements that I can then drag onto the slide. Now, how this is helpful, because if I see students one day and instead of it being an interactive activity, like an online interactive activity, I want it to be like a worksheet, all I have to do is to hit print and print the number of copies I need. If I don't want to do that, if I want to make this an online version, all I have to do is just to share this and push it out via Canvas or whatever we're using at that time. Okay. So I've only built one document, and to show you some examples, in interactive writing prompt, where the top portion here is the quick write, and then students have to drag to adjust where they're kind of feeling in terms of that piece. All your prompts right here with some pre-writing and some additional portions. Now, when you make a copy of each one of these, like in Canvas or in Google Classroom, in Google Assignments, when you make a copy of this for each student, they see all of the side pieces that go along with this slide. But if you were to print this, you could print this as just a whole page, and now it's a graphic organizer for you to use in your classroom on an entire sheet of paper. Right here, I've got some interactive choice boards right here, and to where students can choose a PhET simulation. I've got my directions over here, along with some screenshot image how-tos. I've got some note-taking guides, and how great would this be just to go in and be able to, It needs to be printed, that I can print it and share it with students, maybe send it home, maybe send it to a location where maybe I'm not there and a student's there and they need to work on something, but I'm not there, or if they can't have access to a computer, I can very easily print this or just share it with students and then allow them to work on it on a Chromebook, on an iPad, what have you. 3-column format, even a mind mapping activity where students are able to rearrange their responses. And you can teach them how to do that, or you can just leave it like that. And again, you could just print that as well. And it prints in the standard size piece of paper. Venn diagram, Diamante. All of these are really great examples of graphic organizers, but you can do so much more. And the power in it and the usefulness of it comes from the fact that if you try to print this, it all prints in one document on standard size pieces of paper. And as long as it is within the white spaces of this document, it will print on a piece of paper. So those are just a couple of ideas in terms of things that we could do to streamline some of the things that we do remotely with kids. If you have any questions or concerns, again, my name is Spencer Kuiper. We're here to help you. We're here to help you be better teachers with technology. And if there's anything that we can do, just please let us know. Thanks. Take care.